Sweet. Alex, you good?
Yeah.
Alright, everyone, ready for any? Advantage 1 is discretion. Second, request the CGS results for heavy-handed prosecutors entrusted it with a wide range of discretion that makes performing grassroots organizing impossible without addressing prosecutorial power. Pentagraphs, submitting such resurrected mass incarceration, revoking holder to maximize prison time for drug crimes. A single individual has the power to flood the federal prisons and deeper racial experience. Looking over prosecuting candidate 10 cases are responsible plea bargaining, hidden from public plea prosecutors to responding to evidence that incarceration is costing half more time to freedom. No less than 1,000 of Americans should not see based on policy practice with single prosecutors that is far too much power for anyone to have. And plea bargaining incentivizes defendants and waiving the right to coercion. Green. 13. Prosecutors require defendants to waive the right to waive rights to plea and identify that errors cannot be corrected. These waivers reflect an abuse of prosecutorial power. The prosecutors explain this by requiring defendants to agree that the prosecution may offer defendants and evidence of no plea bargain. This concluding companies or reps are suspected of running to routinely hire lawyers to conduct an investigation and provide results from prosecution. Defendants in some drug courts are required to plead guilty to face harsh punishment or successful treatment as a condition for obtaining treatment in lieu of incarceration. Defendants are forbidden the right to counsel. Prosecutors use their left legitimate judicial position to achieve the results they generally regard as just, and to consider the efficiency mindset that requires that guides plea bargaining is capable of subverting the fundamental unfairness of the CGS. Well, 12. As long as the plea bargains are used to coerce the defendants, the PIC will direct financially with plea bargains and eliminated, the government will be required to prove the guilt of the defendant in accordance with the law. There are whopping protections of prosecution, not to mention incarceration. Wicked correctional system for exercising. Our arrested carcel system is riddled with a corrupt and broken beyond comprehension correction. The judicial system are repeatedly to convert house into a funny plea deal. Plea bargain deals will could be responsible for cleaning up the courts, and this results in cycles of criminalization, dehumanization, and structural violence. Brown and Patterson 16. 1 in 3 African American men will experience prison. Hispanic men are almost 3 times as likely as to be imprisoned as white men. Children of inmates do less well in school, and women pregnant with inmates suffer from different locked away scars. Inmates incarceration linked to disease and premature death. 34 states people on parole or probation can vote into a felony conviction. Means never voting in. A black man will spend with their lives in prison and marked with a felony conviction. To be bled into discussions about access to healthcare and differential such as the gentrification, joblessness, and inequalities. Advantage to its legitimacy. Judicial checks that traffic are coming right now, but it's also on the system require reform judicial independence and separation of powers. 17. Only judicial branch acts as an effective deterrent of the actions of unrestrained style of governance, which have insisted on the fidelity of the rule of the law. Next, banning immigrants and alarming cracks in the system. Attorney General suing to pursue the project that reduces harmful emissions, assessing the catastrophic potential of leaving low-income Americans to navigate the complicated system. The bar is mobilizing a grassroots campaign encouraging to preserve the LSC and commitment to making access to justice available. The legal system critical to our democracy, and ban on plea bargaining would boost overall perception of legitimacy and community participation. Patterson 12. Limited plea bargaining prosecutors to be more parsimonious in the charges that they bring forward, forcing cases to trial. They yield a greater sense of legitimacy in the community at large. We are trying to hold people accountable for the community where silence the community when it matters most. Plea bargaining takes place in a private discussion. What is presented in open court as a result of a secret process. The prosecutions are routine. The prisons are from we are feeding upon ourselves, and we wonder why trials are vanishing by yield and improving in the form of fewer prisons and more confidence in the system and greater accountability. And please sustain the belief that our legal system is unfair and rulings are done through backroom deals. 5 is 06. Criminal justice of the province of prevention also goes to find some knowledgeable participants of the American criminal justice and from the powerless executive control the leverage power to deciding which cases to charge which defendants should receive probation and what sentences are appropriate result. 95% of the cases that have a distinct incentives in their practical cases. They have less self-interest in exposing a large case which rewarding cooperative behavior and ensure the to conviction. The general public and many victims have a very different perspectives than the criminal justice system seems to have hidden and cloaked in jargon technicalities. Euphemism in the public information about criminal justice is notoriously inaccurate. As a participant in jury trials, the public must rely on sensationalist, often distorted media accounts of atypical hyperbolic cases. The gap of information participation and self-interest causing insiders and outsiders used to diverge and securing rule of law legitimacy checks military adventurism. Calvin 89. In this era, started with nuclear weapons, America must hold its commitment to the nation of the law. Our transfer to resolve the subject of military force of constitutional authority. Those who control military must be held accountable under the law. The very underpinnings of constitutional governance and are threatened by those who contend with the rule of law. We are executing military policy. Our tradition of adherence to the rule of law is maintained. The judiciary must be legitimate adherence to the legal principle. The legal system can be used to check against dangerous military action. The judiciary must rigorously scrutinize military stations if anything is remain recognizable. And checking Trump is key to prevent existential risks. Bomb 16. Trump president has for global catastrophe. The president has a sole authority to launch atomic weapons. Trump secures tension with China by taking full cover of time. Wanted disruption could lead to war. That Trump's presidency could create some interesting opportunities to improve U.S. relations. Mr. Trump has pro-Russia stance could mean that Putin will no longer use anti-Americanism to shore domestic support. What if the U.S. government itself becomes authoritarian? His supporting our local had authoritarian inclinations like creating a registry for before Muslims and authoritarian views could have wielded overwhelming military capabilities cooperation in the Center for Addressing Climate Change. Trump's energy plans call for energy independence and development of fossil fuel power. 2 is the plan. Plan text is the Supreme Court of the United States ought to abolish plea bargaining in the United States criminal justice system. Proper 99. Plea bargaining must be abolished as the negotiated pleas are permitted. It will continue to provide the persons of the right to travel as corruption, high corrupted public officials and servers as escape hatch with the affluent and politically powerful violators of the law, and vote aft to challenge that code group and heavily discount that evidence. Share 15. The system becomes so broken that scholars abandon the search for ways to make the system more fair. We will have to unearth the tracks that have gone for a long time missing and avoid creating into the world. We must fight to proclaim our commitment to the exonerating the innocent as a role distributed to the unmasking emperor. The distribution of destructibles of the normative platitudes offer a judges who recycling to like efficiency, necessity, justice. Result the court is John Cook of Weaver, and it's seen fit to provide a rational, safe, and blue ground that is driven by the effects of heavy caseloads. Part 3 is framework, a focus on really integrated framework, and corrections our ability to respond to violence. McCluskey, 12 powers being able to act with having to take harm to others into account. This power struggles with the structures and make disparate that appear acceptable. Justice requires that careful attention with harmful intent and effects and consequences. Arguments will promote a simplicity more robust to the guise of sophisticated intellectual critique. At least should purchase unintended consequences and scrutinize the power and laws that have achieved intention of making laws. That's my friend. Okay.
CX.
Yeah.
Good? Okay. Let's start with your shared patina in the part 2. You say that we need to vote out to challenge status quo group thing, that we should discount negative. Where's the warrant in the ebb for why negative is biased?
So it makes 2 arguments. First of all, it says that because plea bargaining has become such an entrenched part of the system,
When did you say the word plea bargain in the part that you read?
The word plea bargaining, well, the whole article is about plea bargaining.
Right, the part that you read talks about dismantling systems of power. It doesn't say plea bargaining.
You are like, I haven't control F to this card, but if it doesn't say plea bargaining, that's irrelevant. The whole article is talking about the way that because plea bargaining is part of the status quo, we refuse to imagine futures in which it doesn't exist and use things like the efficiency mindset to say that.
Is this unique to plea bargaining? Like not being able to imagine beyond the status quo?
Well, this card makes that argument in relation to plea bargaining. I don't know about.
So where does it? Can you read me the line from the card that says we've stopped thinking about ways out from plea bargaining?
The system has become so broken, according to Alschuler, that the time may have come for criminal justice scholars to abandon the search for ways to make the criminal justice system fair and principled.
This seems like a pessimistic argument that the criminal justice system can't get better.
That is not. That is
it literally says
not.
We should abandon hope for change and making it more fair.
No, I don't think the card makes a pessimism claim at all.
Okay, then where does it warrant the claims you say it makes?
I just read you a line that you asked me to read.
Fine.
I can explain the warrants in the card if you want, or I can read other lines.
It's fine. Let's move on. Let's talk about discretion. You say that plea bargaining incentivized, or actually, let's talk about perception.
The legitimacy advantage.
Yeah. So let's go to Pattis 12. Who are the people perceiving plea bargaining as unfair?
People in the United States.
Okay, so everyone.
Like sure, like people who are in the United States view plea bargaining as something that's illegitimate and a mockery.
Let's talk about your impact act. The Calvin 89 Act that says that we need to secure rule of law to check adventurism. This seems to be an argument about how we need to regulate military excursion. How does this relate to plea bargaining?
That's not what the card says. The card says that rule of law is important because it allows us to check military adventurism. The internal link argument above it says that we can only have rule of law if people believe in the legitimacy of the system, which endows the power to things like the judiciary branch and legislative branch to check Trump.
The internal link is the 5-6F, right?
That is one of the internal links.
Okay, so this doesn't have anything to do with everyone believing the rule of law. This literally is just about the criminal justice system.
I'm not sure what the question is. The argument is about plea bargaining. That's what the paper is about. I'm not really sure what you're asking me.
The question is, I guess, how does 5-6 indicate that, I guess, plea bargaining is inconsistent with the rule of law?
So I think you're more referring to the card above it, but the 5-06 card makes 2 claims. First, it says that pleas people view pleas as sort of like a mockery of the system, where they believe that the criminal justice system is just looking for easy ways out, and so they don't believe that it's something legitimate and that will protect them if it's something that.
Starting prep. How do people's feelings about the CJS extend to the rest of the legal system as a whole?
What do you mean?
If people think the CJS is legit, does that mean they think the rest of the criminal system is legit, and vice versa?
So I'm not really sure what you're asking me. Our argument is that right now plea bargaining undermines the way that people view the system by attacking plea bargaining and getting rid of it. We open up the space for people to participate and make the criminal justice system more akin to
Okay,
what they
that's fine, thank you. Okay, 305 left, the order is 3 on case, send the dog. Okay, it's been sent, let me know when you're good. Also, can you use a scan?
Yeah. Is case top 10?
Yeah.
I'm good. Whenever it passes.
First off, is accountable. Prosecutors have all the power. Plea orders made behind closed doors, leaving no room for public scrutiny. That's our own pedestal. 5 to 6 evidence resolved. The United States federal government not to regulate the bargaining with the via the U.S. State Attorney General as per the California model. The self-stated case called 11I will clarify and cross-examine only if you want me to. California's constitution says the law of this promotes for justice, and such information must come from entity apart from the judge and prosecutor. The review authority must have access to charge and prosecutor's entire file. All such information review would be able to determine if cases overcharged. The prosecutor needs to overcharge and leverage to obtain a clear sentence unduly favorable to the state. And self-corruption prosecutors will be held accountable for corrosive and corrupt practices. Culpable 3. They do not appear to be any unrealistic barriers. Implementation will involve charging deputies and attorney general's office with oversight in accordance with the constitutional powers of these prosecutorial offices found to have abused their authority would be identified, exposed, or motivated to comply with prosecutorial responsibilities in the future. Second office is dissent. Courts have to expand here because it's unnecessary. Accurate court level justifies court expansion. Blackman 1127. Republicans are increasing the size of the federal judiciary. Private argument that the administration justice could be further reducing the workload of our increasing tax judiciary. This has to go with the extended proposed or by a single president to transform the judiciary into order is entirely disproportionate to the nature of the problem. And courts in plea bargaining to reduce caseload. History proves wall 17. 97% of caseload in federal cases settled by plea bargaining completely became released from valve from mounted caseload. The Supreme Court in 1969 heard a case concerning the legality issue unanimously ruled the pleas are constitutionally acceptable inherent in criminal law and its administration. Evidence concludes court block happens as well. Her own evidence indicates that 9 in 10 cases use plea bargaining. And this crazy courts replaces current bodies Trump's elected judges claim on 21. If conservatives together were in trouble, twice as many lifetime members of the federal judiciary in 12 months as Obama named in 8 years. 1 in 8 because the case filed in federal court will be heard by a judge. Will be heard by a judge added by Trump. The effect on civil rights and liberties will be astounding. Will roll out decades of progress in judicial diversity, vast power, environmental health and safety regulation for decades. And Republicans support current packing of the court's school blockade to show Democratic judicial nominees and Republican leaders pushing for approve. Rosenberg 12-3. Republicans have tried to change the constitutional order for a very long time. One reason is there's a great sense of urgency. The right conservatives are frustrated with the lack of prosecution. Should be a wake-up call for activists to fight back against the ongoing Trump takeover of the courts. And anti-Trump court system are key to check multiple instances of executive power. Leader on 17. Government takes the position that president's decisions are unreviewable. No precedent to support this non contrary to the fundamental system of our constitutional democracy. Courts have the power to hold constitutional executive orders, but the court's response to new court criminal legislation will limit the use of judicial review and response. Importance of separation of powers. The judicial branch checks the power of the executive branch. Also, this is a stronger term to her own legitimacy impact because she says that the inherent legitimacy impact is the legitimacy of the CJS when across she cannot tell us what the relationship between these the relationship is between the legitimacy of the CJS and the relationship and the legitimacy of the legal system as a whole, whereas I control the internal issue, the legitimacy of the legal system as a whole. Absent separation of powers, no one will be able to check that, which means the public perception flows next. Third off, interpretation of the affirmative provisions. A, read an explicit rule of battle standard text in 1C. B, specify whether the rule of battle standards is sensitive means based. And C, link often so that B is a violation. First, they don't direct rule obligation tells us what goodness about it is bad this is. Second, they don't tell us what kind of oppression is bad. More like extinction of structural bonds. Third, is that there's no rule of battle standard text. Here, the standard first is Stratsky. I don't normally call someone to see fair pursuits of moving targets. You can recontextualize your credible impacts, kills benefits, the ability to create a structural sequel acts and valid is prerequisite to any educational benefits because there's no actual discussion of what is here. Class supercharging. I lose 6 minutes of time to what is here. Distracted. I don't know what terms of shot I can go for the one end. This means that states won't check for the abuse. Still lose 6 minutes. Second, a stable ground. Each nuance of any ethic entails different obligations which would exclude different offices. No way violation, which are two different violations that we cannot weigh between under a framework. If every turns on one of the avenues is vague standard, making sure the responses fail to which you don't want to deal with. Also saying the act of consequential is insufficient. You have to justify why consequences matter. Which theory of consequentialism you refer to, i.e., do we care more about structural violence or about extinction? This is key to real-world education. This field teaches us how to make decisions. Key to fairness is to camp from steal traffic and want to see can't access the ballot. Vote of fairness because debate is adjudicated based on wins and losses, both for the better debate and not the better cheater. Education is a voter because that's why debate is funded. Drop the debater A to choose future BC. Drop the doesn't solve the time trade of C point. Is that drop the org? It just means you drop the debater because the entire one is doesn't have framing and there's no way to engage with it. Also, competing in terms of A is intrinsic to this shell. If any theory running against after that normative theory is reasonable because we don't know the implications in the 1AC, which means that we should evaluate if not reading the standard is good or bad for debate as a whole. B point is reasonable is infinite abuse and arbitrary debate is using increasing number of standards just by defense on theory. No RB is when it's chilling. In fact, RBI is disincentivized debaters from being here checking real abuse out of fear that good debaters will just obey theory. B point is theory is not office for her counter interpret. It's just a reason why she is fair, therefore not a reason she wins. Also, cross checks don't solve. First, just because cross is good doesn't mean attacks and cross are better. Second, that cross means judge intervention because we have to cross no one flows cross and judge, so the judge has to rely on cross question that we don't have memorized or written down. Case. Top down first. Let's start with the 112 FNQ. You say that we have to deconstruct the efficiency mindset and subvert the criminal justice system. You say that we have to crash through the system by exerting our own rights. That is this is directly quote from the Alexander evidence. This system of crashing the course by exercising our rights means that we have to throw people in prison. One is that this is a whitewash liberation strategy. You can't expect these are not just 20-somethings getting DUIs and spending a night in the drunk tank. These are people who have to feed their children, have to go to work the next day. They cannot just sacrifice years of their lives to go to jail, which means that your strategy is doomed to fail for the people that you care about. Most second is that you second is on your legitimacy advantage. On your legitimacy advantage, the catapult solves better because actually no. We're gonna go to PATIS 12. You say that banning plea bargaining boosts perception. No, banning plea bargaining will not cause CJS reform. Politicians simply build more prisons. 59. The assumption that elimination of plea bargaining could overrun the prison system may be incorrect. The justice, as an argument in the workplace, assumption that courts will consider whether there's room for a particular defendant in a correctional corrections system. This is a standard tragedy, the common scenario. Evidence that has shown that the correctional system will not continue to grow is to contrary. The legislature has shown little resistance to increasing funding for the correctional system. Second term, abolition of plea bargaining should brings it underground. PB is inevitable. Banning makes it worse. Alaska proof bans kill accountability, increase unfair verdicts. 69. Defense attorneys continue to advise their clients to plead guilty. Defense attorneys have incentive sources to advise guilty pleas to their clients. Even with that active plea bargaining, courts will give lower sentences to defendants who plead guilty. In Alaska, as a way around the plan, judges took matters into their own hands, made their own deals. The state Supreme Court prohibited this, but that didn't stop unofficial deals. Even in the absence of official plea bargains, defendants continue to enter a large number of guilty pleas. Empirical analytics, only empirical tells us the world is actually like we can justify anything. She doesn't have any empirical results. She doesn't have a single instance where banning plea bargaining has led to a decrease in has led to a decrease in plea bargains or an instance where banning plea bargaining would actually lead to an increase in legitimacy. And skip wanting 87. Plea bargaining is inevitable. Banning it just means that we go underground as per the Alaska evidence means that that's even worse for legitimacy. That just revives the perception that plea bargains are conducted behind closed doors, which is exactly what the 1AC criticizes to begin with. Next, Trump's tough on crime policies mean federal enforcement becomes harsher after plea bargaining answers. It's such a true because her evidence was well published under Obama. That's 917. The prison population is expected to grow. Trump stepped the prosecution 2% growth in 2018 in Justice Department budget. The budget also calls for 350 prosecutors, 75 new judges. Expected to be a boon to private prison companies. Sessions order prosecutors to charge the most serious offense, crackdown on illegal immigration, drug trafficking, and exercise that every region that has banned plea bargaining go next. Their convention takes up the entire case, Also, having plea bargaining go underground is much worse than having plea bargaining as it is because there's no way you can regulate it, which means it's even more illegitimate. How 5. In Alaska, judge gave implicit bargains to those who pled guilty. No case of the trial by dealt with judges found they could not move with a much larger caseload. The ban essentially fell by just over bargaining in Detroit. They held short jury waived trials. They simply reduced years and sentences otherwise would have been given. Next on the legitimacy advantage, let's go to the culminating evidence. There's no relationship between the CJ's legitimacy and the legal legitimacy as a whole. Next on the balance 16 evidence, no impact. There's nothing about distinction here. Literally just what if the United States federal government turned authoritarian. This is just one guy's opinion. You should prefer my evidence about impacts that are happening now. Ready? Yeah. Status? Condo.
Okay. Let's talk about the counterplan then. Who regulates them?
The state's attorney general offices. So the California model is that the attorney general office gets to regulate.
How do they do that?
Sure. So the mechanism is in Culpable 11. They have the access to the entire prosecutor's file. So the evidence they were given, the charge they gave, testimonies that were given, etc.
So when did they get this file?
During the trial, before the trial.
Before the trial. So what I'm confused.
During the prosecution process.
Okay, so the Attorney General office would somehow get the thousands and thousands of cases that come up literally every single day, and they would have time to review review every single one of them to make sure bad things.
So in criminal cases, they're given the files, they get the data, and then they review it to make sure prosecutors aren't doing anything wrong.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about this theory argument.
Sure.
So why is cross-ex not sufficient to check what impacts matter? Why do you need a text in the 1AC?
Okay, so first of all, I made this argument in the NC, right? That first, just because cross-ex solves doesn't mean having a text is better, isn't better. Second is that we don't have cross-ex memorized. We don't all flow cross-ex.
Yeah, but
which means
it's
a giant
binding,
dimension.
so.
Well, if it's binding and we don't have it written down.
Who says that people flow during speeches to like a lot of judges are on Facebook? Like I don't understand like what the difference is between.
It's a
no
no
offense,
for
Alex, but I don't understand the difference between having it in a text in the 1AC.
Sure,
and
there's also the
passing
fact
across
that there's literally no justification at all for which impacts matter. Like it would be a different story if you said like,
yeah, I
structural
did
balance
read a
matters
framework
most.
card for one.
You read one framework.
I
card.
did
You said that-
justify
you-
it, so
okay,
I don't
no.
understand
You
what the
justified
difference
one
between the
aspect
text is.
that could belong to many ethical theories. You said like focus on intent is bad. There are a lot of theories.
That's
that
not
agree
the,
with
but
that.
the card then says in the latter half that consequence focus is good.
Okay,
so,
sure, consequences are good.
I don't
Expedientism
understand-
our theory is minimizing extinction our theory. There are still a bunch of different
I don't
impacts that
understand
matter
why you
under
can't just like
consequentialism.
weigh under consequentialism and then
Okay,
just
dude,
weigh.
the idea weighing under consequentialism is literally.
Yeah, you can make arguments for why extinction comes first under consequentialism. I can make oppression arguments, then we have a debate.
No, but then how do you weigh between extinction and oppression? That's
That's
literally a
your
framework
job.
debate.
That's my
Yeah,
job.
that's
it's your
literally a
job.
framework debate. You should have justified it in the
Okay,
one
I'm
I
gonna
see.
move on. This claim card in the disad,
Sure.
it says that he creates new courts in the tag, but the card itself is just talking about him appointing people to existing courts. Can you read me a line in the evidence that says that he creates a new courts?
Sure. The idea. Okay. Well, appointing.
Like, no, I want like a line. in the evidence.
Appointing his appointees to the courts essentially make.
What part of
That's the harm that we
the
identify.
Republicans control every single branch of government. Why aren't they just why isn't he just packing that?
Sure. So they need justifications to be able to pack the courts. Their justification
Why?
is. What do you mean why? You can't.
Okay,
So and then their justification
I'm gonna
is.
start.
Okay.
I'm
Okay, 137 left.
Yeah. roll the ballot spec, the AF, the counter plan, Victor's side.
Okay.
Everyone good? Counter-interpretation, the app doesn't need to explicitly specify the role the ballot clarify how the round will play and another role the ballot in the form of delineated text, so they want to see if they have evidence justifying which impacts transfers ACE. Also, they're often thinking just because about why it often matters more. This is to make they can disagree with my impact calculus, for example, in a util debate. Even if we specify that we should be using util, we don't say magnitude versus probability in the speech. It is literally the same thing, which means that if they obviously have the ability to engage in, it proves that their interp is arbitrary and one over specification. Person that if they have to specify something for they'll specify to de-link the best neck offense in terms of responsibility, because the whole debate comes down to how the judge interprets one line of the app. And second, arbitrariness is bad. LD fantasizes explicit text because they give easy answer to complicated question. We should just sum it up in one sentence. This it kills fairness of the best impacts on both sides get it. Including at least a superficial impact. Houses 3, no shooting this judge to have a low threshold for answer analysis. If we say something and see says just hold us to it, and there's no reason why flowing uniquely solves, because some judges just wouldn't flow anyway. So there was no impact to this. For a standard text, don't self-confirmings are just ambiguous and saying that respecting for it doesn't solve anything. So present clarification is an amplified. Don't treat cases something special. They're only reading this art because they think that the average way this allows it the debaters of color to be marginalized for reading a K, which destroys accessibility, which controls the internal links to their fairness and education impacts. Because if we aren't in this space, we don't get that. We don't get the offense for that. We don't get the ability to have that discussion in the first place on resolvability, not an impact judges inevitably have to decide the debate evidence and arguments. We make judges will decide muddle debates all the time. We're not needing bad weighing evidence comparison. Every time we give the muddle debates way more natural, not a moving target. They can just contest how interpreted and explain by verb. Make them make arguments, not complain. Now the app. The one is in collapse of the efficiency mindset. The one cases that enforce a culture change, and the prosecutor must reduce the amount of cases they make to conserve resources. So that's Patterson. Like the play could be separated from justification center. The passage of one is that we critique the notion that efficiency comes before right. To start this argument, and we literally saw back for 100% of their arguments because all of their arguments are predicated on the current CJS being something bad. But we reevaluate the way the CJS works and create a mindset where we do not want to incarcerate people as much, which turns all their arguments and proves that it will lead to massive CJS reform, which means that we solve all their impacts long term. And you can see that mass incarceration outweighs versus magnitude and global violence. Dehumanizing people that they're not citizens anymore, rather they're disposable and fungible, which comes before their impacts because it destroys people's valid lives. Second is probability, and critically proven that there are hundreds of degenerative impacts from incarceration. For prefer probability and magnitude focus of one active. Always supremacy is to erase some other rights, so discount the epistemology. Second is actual process. We never take action because there's an infinitely small probability of every impact, so instead we use position calculus and real one on applicability. Now the circumvention arguments of all mission is feasible. No circumvention shall further equal Philadelphia supports the feasibility of total appellation. Philadelphia prosecutors prevented plea bargaining. Nearly every case of Philadelphia indicates a successful abolition of plea bargaining is achievable. Also, all of their evidence isn't specific to the SCOTUS ruling on something, which means it has way more legitimacy. Falls back for all of their arguments. Also, the efficiency framing takes this out because it proves that people have a fundamental change in how they view the CGS, so they want to circumvent it. You say that they'll just build prisons, but it doesn't assume the time frame. It happens rapidly, so it will force pressure on the system. You say Trump is tough on crime right now, but the efficiency mindset argument takes this out. Now the counterpoint. Counterpoint permutation do both to solve 100% of their offense, also solves the solvency deficits. First, it doesn't solve the legitimacy advances. They view it as subverting the system because there's no juries and judges, etc. It's not what the Sixth Amendment is about. Second, it doesn't solve there's way too many cases to review, so they wouldn't be able to go through all of them. So it would still be functionally the status quo, which means that the app is just a giant net benefit to the permutation. It proves that they don't solve any portion of it. They also don't solve the rights advantage because people are still forced into taking bargains under their interpretation because they're not able to actually access any of the plea bargain. Now they just have one no internal link. Their evidence just says that conservative law prefers to propose expansion of federal judicial system. Trump wants conservative judges. There's no coherent argument why the plan will expand the judicial system. Why those conservative judges uniquely? You can read their evidence. It's terrible. It just says that he's appointing people right now, but no link. The GOP controls all three branches of government. They want to expand the course. They can just do it. They don't need a fake amount of work credit. They're able to do it in the SCO. The SCO doesn't eliminate that barrier. Washington Post, 70 Caliber, St. Hill, and Hickory recognize that the proposed act is quickly possible for their downstream control. The plan adopted is made reconciliation not susceptible to filibuster by Senate Democrats. Consider to set flexible attack the court right now. PR watch 120, 12. Republicans suspended with interpretation of court practice with the nominees of extreme conservative. Trump managed to confer 12 appellate court judges, quadruple what Obama did, which was a disaster.
Okay, I have 305 left. I'll start now. In the 1AC, where do you read evidence talking about which impacts come first?
McCluskey.
Okay.
And the impact card and advantage 1 and the impact card and advantage 2 both talk about why certain impacts would be bad.
Okay. Okay. The order is AC, theory, counterplan, decide.
On theory, is it your intern, my intern, or other way?
It's counter, inter. Okay.
Need cards?
No. Is everyone good? Okay. We are going for the circumvention terms. You can send how 5 evidence as well as the 15 evidence indicating that in every single instance of plea bargaining, whenever it was removed, it just comes back even more. It's even more insidious because it's undergrounding, so we're not able to regulate it anymore, which kills legitimacy. It's just raised by the perception that plea bargaining is conducted underground behind closed doors, where the prosecutors are the ones who hold the power. The after responses are grossly insufficient. First, she reads first my evidence, always her Philadelphia evidence. One is that it postdates. It's much later. My evidence is from 2012, whereas hers is from 2005, which means that it's more likely to include more recent data, which adequately reflects the status quo segment that it always on scope because it includes more. It includes more places. It includes entire jurisdictions as opposed to just Philadelphia. I talk about all Pacer, Detroit, I talk about Alaska. All of these are more jurisdictions than Philadelphia. More evidence flows negative. This increases the likelihood that it's correct because multiple independent processes come to the same conclusion that increases the odds that it's correct. Third is that there's literally no evidence in the app about a culture shift. This is just an analytical argument. This is literally just some guy's opinion. There's no evidence in the app will succeed in causing a culture shift where people prioritize rights over efficiency. In fact, you should prefer the neg evidence, which is the You should prefer the Reinhardt 17 evidence, which is specific to right now. The app itself, the evidence was published under a bond where trust hard on crime policies mean that it's more likely that he is going to prioritize incarceration, and incarceration in the prison system is going to crack down again. Crack down again instead of easing up on people. Instead of easing up on people, you should prefer this on. You should prefer this because it poses her evidence. It's more recent and it accounts for current circumstances that her evidence doesn't account for. She says that the prison industrial complex outweighs. Sure, we agree with this. Literally just turns case. She doesn't get access to her solvency arguments from the culture shift. There's literally no empirics. You can also cross by the empirics over analytics argument. The fact of the matter is that people just keep going back to plea bargaining, which means that the culture shift is not happening. People still care about efficiency over stopping. In fact, they care more about efficiency because they just keep going. Which means the app actually actively make things worse. Also, you can extend the whiteness dissent to her. You can extend the whiteness dissent to her well 12 evidence indicating that she's proposing a white system of liberation for people. You cannot just pass the system by exercising your rights. She is suggesting that people throw themselves into jail with that and not take plea bargains to bring down the system. That is not going to work. You can extend the fact that these people, you can extend the fact that this is a terrible liberation strategy because people need to be going home and feeding their families, and they are impoverished. They have to go to work the next day. They can't just afford to be in jail like privileged only 20-year-old partygoers, which means that the app is going to fail. Let's see. She also says that none of my evidence is specific to Supreme Court rulings, which means that it doesn't make the app. No, nothing. The Supreme Court has never passed this ruling before, which means that there's no possible evidence that would fit this bill. You should look to real-world evidence where plea bargaining has been abolished and would actually help. You can also send the no internal link argument. There's no relation between CJ's legitimacy and the legitimacy of the entire legal system. Legitimacy of the entire legal system in terms of perception, which means that she doesn't get access to her offense. Next, you can also send the impact defense of false team that we're not actually going to go. Actually, yeah, she didn't go for that impact. It's fine. Theory. On the counter-interpretation, she does not meet her counter-interpretation. She says that she can do that, she doesn't have to read all ballot types. If she reads evidence specifying which impacts come first, there is no evidence indicating which impacts come first. She says she reads multiple impact cards. The McCluskey evidence literally just says we should look to consequences. It does not say what kind of consequences come first. She doesn't say pressure, it doesn't say extinction first. Her impact evidence in both scenarios says that those impacts are important, sure, but it doesn't tell us which come first, which means that you don't meet your interpretation automatically. You lose under competing interpretations because you have to provide a norm that you have to provide a norm defending what you did, defending what you did, which you don't do. Next on your standards. First, you say this all my office. You give an example of weighing under usual magnitude or probability, but this presupposes that you have justified usual already. This is one ethical theory of the problem. You haven't even done the work to justify this ethical theory, which means that we don't get to weigh. Next, you say that overspecification hurts the negative. First, her underspec is worse than overspec. With overspec, at least you know what to do. At least you know what arguments you have to win. What arguments you have to win. With underspec, you have to win every single possible argument. I.e., you have to turn structural violence. You have to turn rights because you don't know which one the app's going to go for, which means that this is a the structural abuse is much worse than a 3-to-1 because she can win any of the impact words, which if she overspecifies, I just know which impact justifying a standard text decreases arbitrariness because you have to justify why your ethical theory is good. Turn, the app is probably more arbitrary because you just justify, oh, these impacts are bad, but there's no coherent theory of why this is why that's true. The third, you say there's no shiftiness, no low threshold for you say there's no shiftiness, no process doesn't solve. You can definitely shift in the one area cure click verified. You have extinction offense as well as rights offense as well as structural violence offense coming out of the 1 words, and then the 1 area you collapse to the you collapse to the structural violence offense, which means that by offense of the other 2 layers would have been mooted. Next, you say that process checks are inapplicable, but that process. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm saying that you shifting is a bad thing, which means that this argument is and also this argument is just defensive. It's just defensive. Whereas under committee interest, you have to have an active reason why your interest is a good thing. Next, you say that marginalized abusing kills accessibility. No, you can normatively justify why oppression is bad. I do that. Nico Battle does this. A bunch of performance debaters do it, which means that this is just a cop out. It's just a cop out. On resolvability, I didn't read resolvability. It doesn't respond. Myself. Extend the interpretation that the app has to read a role of valid standard text and what it can specify whether that's animation means based on legal or opposite that unity set violation. She doesn't contest at all. We're going to go for the I'm going to go for the stable ground argument. The fact that each norms of nothing entails different obligations. The app has to entails different obligations. There's no way to weigh between the impact once the app actually specifies, which means that this A kills fairness because there's no way for me to engage with the 1 because they can just shift like she did in the 1 B point is that there's no philosophical education argument. There will always be 2 shifts passing that. I'm going to say, oh, extinction comes first. She will say, oh, structural violence comes first. That's literally just a framework. We would never compare between the impact, which talks about the importance of having a affirmative in the first place. You can extend the fairness and education of both voting issues. She doesn't contest this. This is also not a voting issue for her. Counterclaim? Real quick. This for the first perm about this and the first perm about this all the terms of this is the perm. Second is that capital and self-legitimacy. The culpable 5 evidence indicates that empirically this works, which also takes out your too many cases argument. Theory, the aft, the counterclaim. Your only argument against this is that we don't meet our counter-interpretation. Obviously, McCluskey says the consequence comes first. It's a ridiculous argument. The second, we'll go for a couple of arguments on this. The first is that you conceded that the weighing under different frameworks is inevitable, i.e., if you read util, it doesn't literally tell you how to weigh impacts under that framework. Rather, you would have to make magnitude weighing arguments or time for weighing arguments or probability weighing arguments, which means that there's some amount of shift is inevitable, which means that there's no net benefit to their interpretation. You've also conceded that people are inevitably shifty. That was, I think, the 3 point or the 4 point on the show, because it says that
if we have just sort of like 3 words in a standard text that is so vague that it would require process clarification inevitably, which causes a shift, which means that all of your impacts are triggered anyway, and it also all of your impacts are triggered anyway. And it also takes out this argument. A lot of the offense you go for in the last speech is predicated on us having to normatively justify our framework, but that is not what your interpretation is. Rather, it just says the only 2 things we have to specify is a text and whether or not it's means-based or end-based, which could literally just be 5 words of a framework, which means that you don't get any of your framework you don't get any of your framework being good offense because your interpretation doesn't justify having to justify why that framework is good. Rather, you could just say 5 words, which takes out 100% of your offense. Now, the offense will go for is arbitrariness. You've conceded that LG finish has an explicit text because it gives us easy answers to complicated questions. We should have to sum it up in 1 sentence because it kills fairness and best interest for both sides get excluded, and it leads to superficial impact calculus, which destroys the education we get from the round. It also means that it also destroys our strategy and our ability to generate good ground, which takes out all of your ground arguments because it doesn't matter if that ground is stable if you don't have a good quality of ground, which outweighs all of your offense. You should vote on there not being any net benefit to this theory argument. Yeah. We'll go for 2 arguments on the act. First is the efficiency mindset. You can see that cases force a culture shift as prosecutors have to reduce the amount of cases they have to take to conserve resources. None of your evidence assumes a nationwide ban on plea bargaining, which forces a pressure on the system, which causes an efficiency mindset that it takes out all of your arguments. You say empirics, but empirics doesn't just mean numbers. It also means people studying the way that people's psychology works, which is something that the sure evidence does, which takes out this argument. You say circumvention. You can see that the SCOTUS precedent outweighs because everyone listens to SCOTUS, which takes out your argument. We've also read sufficient amount of empirics that say that it could work. Also, across the try or die framing in the last speech, either that mass incarceration outweighs because either people are able to sort of fight back against the system and push for broader CJS reform, where there's no possibility of that happening because the counterplan doesn't cross that sort of pressure on the system to have that CJS reform cross about the long-term weighing argument we made in the last speech that we're able to force for better CJS reform, which causes a decrease in mass incarceration, which outweighs all of the offense they go for, which outweighs all the offense they go for in the last speech because it causes dehumanization, and dehumanization which takes out any sort of value to life. You should ask yourself the question of, does the counterplan link in all the circumvention arguments? The answer is yes, because if people like plea bargaining so much, they will also circumvent the counterplan and do even more circumvention, which takes out any counterplan solvency and proves that there's no benefit to that the counterplan argument. You've conceded that it's impossible for them to regulate it because it'll be so many cases that the majority of them will slip through the cracks, which means that they don't solve the rights advantage because people will still be coerced in the system, which means that they still cause mass arrest and mass incarceration.
I'll use the bathroom first.
Okay, so